Hey there, YouTube. I'm Jack, and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. Hope everybody had a beautiful weekend out there. It was absolutely perfect again here. We're on a roll with this weather. Just beautiful days. It's hard to even be inside. The weather's been so nice the last week. And I'm about to get back outside and do some writing here again in a little bit. I've been working outside, taking advantage of this nice weather. But today I want to talk about everything you need for a raw food diet and what your number one source is. Guys, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate if you go down and hit that subscribe button now. Then be sure you click on the little bell and check send notifications so you'll stay subscribed to the channel. Yeah, I'm sitting down at the park writing today, and I've gotten, I finally got my book going. Like a lot of times with projects, especially bigger projects, it's just once you kind of get it going, you take a step, and you just kind of get into that routine of doing it every day. It gets a little easier and easier. So I've been writing regularly, and as I'm working on my book, I'm kind of thinking, I have a thought process going, and number one, I'm kind of, telling my story. But I'm also, too, I'm writing this book with the thought or the intention of trying to help people. In other words, like give them almost a cheat sheet, a shortcut to get there. In other words, like maybe help them eliminate some of the problems I went through, or like just basically get them to the good stuff really quick. So that's kind of been on my mind as I'm writing this book, and I'm writing down things, and I'm trying to think of things, telling my story, and like thinking like, okay, what are some of the things I did that weren't the best that you could, maybe you could skip on your own and get to the best version of doing this lifestyle, whatever you consider that to be. And when I say everything you need for a raw food diet and your number one source is you, your common sense. Trust your common sense and your intuition. Now when I say that, I'm not getting into any woo-woo stuff like I'm all about educating, but use your common sense as you're educating yourself. Sometimes some of the people they follow and some of the sources they use and just some of their approaches, I'm like, are you really using common sense with that? Or you kind of have this cult-like thinking going on where you're just following a person or a program or something? Because we all have common sense enough. I mean, listen, I'm no genius. When I got to this lifestyle, I had been a 30-year drunk. I was like, so it's not like I was some very thoughtful, intelligent, educated person that just had some advantage to make good decisions. No, I was an idiot drunk. But as I started reading this information, studying this information, learning this information, just immediately to me there were things that I'm like, that's ridiculous. There's no basis to that. And there were other things I'm like, okay, this makes sense. There's some science to that. And that's why I've always been interested in the science, and that's why I've always said, don't judge me by how I look. More people, especially on Instagram and other places, send me woo-woo type stuff, or like the way they talk to me or the questions they ask to me. I think they're expecting something else. Obviously, they haven't followed me for very long, because I state this all the time, that I'm about the science of this lifestyle. I'm about continuously educating yourself. And yeah, all this I'm not into woo-woo type stuff. If you're using words that are like mystical and whatever, where it comes to food, just doesn't resonate with me. I've always been about the science and about what works. So use that common sense and stop giving away your power to other people. Like, I follow, like nothing makes me more annoyed than when somebody is bashing, say, somebody in the raw food community or one of these people because they followed this person. This person led me down a bad path. Well, that's your own fault right there. You don't be a follower. You take the lead in this. You have, as I'm always talking about, use Google, use YouTube, and apply your common sense. Like I said, I was making notes about some of the things I've been writing about, and that was my method from day one. I'm not talking about what I know now. I'm not talking about what after I've done this. We're talking back in the first 6 months, year of doing this lifestyle. I used Google a lot. I used YouTube a lot. And I watched a lot of the bullshit, and I watched a lot of the people that were babbling constantly about the detoxing and the this and the that and the cleanses and all this blah, blah, woo-woo, hippie type stuff. And it just didn't make sense to me. And as I saw science type stuff that had, real information, real facts, it just made sense to me. Certain people made sense to me. Certain people always made sense to me from day one. T. Colin Campbell made sense to me from day one. Esselstyn made sense to me from day one. Dr. Greger made sense to me from day one. A lot of the aspects of 80-10-10 made sense to me from day one. Now notice on all of these people, I don't follow any of them. None of them is like my exact way of doing a lifestyle. I've taken things from different ones of those people. But all the people that I've taken information, Brenda Davis, another one, Becoming Vegan, Becoming Raw. I get my information from people that have studied a little bit of the science on this. And I advise you do that too. And tune out the noise. Tune out the noise. Stop with, I know I say this almost every video to try to get you to do this, but just stop putting yourself into these public online situations where you're just taking your information, there's just sources coming. I always use Facebook groups as an example. You start discussing a subject in a Facebook group, you're going to get 150, if it's a very active group, you're going to get 150 different opinions. And so many of these opinions are going to just completely contradict each other. And there may be somebody over here, listen, it's people have slick tongues. That's how con artists get money from people. There's people that can talk really well. There's people that convince you about things. There's people that talk well enough that they could convince you, we have an old saying, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Well, they can convince you it's raining. So, you need to apply your inner filter. You need to do this thing at your pace. And when you're doing it through Google, when you're doing it through YouTube, you have the time. You're not worrying about other people. And also too, your ego's not coming in. You're not doing this back and forth with another person. You can sit there, you can read, you can watch, you can listen, and you just get more out of that. So tune out that noise and stop listening to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. I get random stuff. I get people that, and listen, I don't say never very often, and there might even be exceptions to this, but never take random, unsolicited health advice. Just never do it. Never do it. Or at least if somebody gives you some random, unsolicited health advice or about your eating way, if for some reason it resonates with your intuition and you say, okay, this person might be right, you can go look it up. But I get stuff. The next time you want to know something, even your basic questions, where do you get your protein on a plant-based diet? You know what you do? Go to Google. Type that in exactly like that. Where do you get your protein on a plant-based diet? If you want, you can do both of them. Open Google, open YouTube. Type that exact question into both of them. Watch a couple of videos, read a couple of things on there. See what the consensus is. What does this person say? What does this person say? If you kind of gather 4, 5, or 6 different things there, you'll figure out how you get your protein on a raw food diet. How do I get calcium? How do I do this? Type those exact things in. Where do I find calcium? How do I get calcium on a vegan lifestyle? How do I get calcium on a plant-based diet? All these different things. Is such and such bad to do like this? Type it in. You don't have all that noise out there. I know I'm being very repetitive today, but I really want to hammer in this point that people are wasting so much time and hey, if it's about the social aspect of it, once again, I don't know about that part. Maybe it's just and I do understand that, but understand the difference. Okay, maybe I'm not saying these Facebook groups are bad or whatever. In fact, they do give you community, and I encourage that. And I'm not saying you can't learn anything there. I'm just saying be aware of what the atmosphere is. Think about that. Think about that. If you're out there right now and you're in any groups or any forums about a raw food diet, think about an active one where you get active, posts all day and people respond to comments, not an inactive one. And you go in and you ask a question in there. Think about it. You've probably done it before. How many different answers are you going to get? How much stuff are you going to have to wade through? How much crazy stuff are you going to have to wade through? Whereas you do the same thing to Google, you do the same thing to YouTube, and you can figure that stuff out. Listen, I'm going to finish with this. The number one objective I've wanted since day one on this channel, on my Instagram, on anything I share, is not to make you a follower of me, not to be like, hey, I do my thing Jack's way, or hey, Jack's the guy that knows how to do this. I don't want it to be anything about me. I want to empower you. I want to empower you to where you don't need a Jack. It's just kind of like, all right, I got a few skills now. I know how to do this. I know how to get my information. I don't need I need other people because they've written the resources and I'm still learning too. And I'm still constantly, studying stuff and exploring stuff, but I don't need a physical person to tell me something. All that information is there. If you locked me somewhere where I had access to YouTube, Google, the internet, anything that's out on the internet, but I couldn't talk to anybody, I couldn't ask any questions, I could figure this thing out. I could figure this thing out using that approach. I'd watch videos, I would contrast, I would compare. What does Dr. Greger say versus what does this guy say? What are the differences? What do they contradict each other on? What are their similarities? And you just put things together piece by piece like that. You can do that with recipes. You can figure it all out. You have it all. You have it all within your hands. That little keyboard you type on or that device you're thumbing right there. You've got it all right there. So tune out that noise and have a little bit more trust in yourself. It's not rocket scientist, and most everybody's making it up. It's what we put into our body. What are there, 8 billion people on this planet? And there's probably 8 billion different opinions on exactly what we should be putting into our body for our optimum health. So anyhow, you got everything it takes. Hope you guys enjoyed this one today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you here in a couple of days. Peace.